Hello everyone and welcome. We're here in Yeshivat Chut Shel Chesed under the guidance of Rabbi Shalom Arush, and we continue to learn, to study, to get inspired from Rabbi Nachman's stories. We're holding in the story of the king and the emperor, where there was a match made between a boy and a girl, and now they've been trying to get together with a lot of struggles. The parents didn't want their marriage to come about, and they decided to run away, and they wanted to get married no matter what. And they traveled on a boat, and they got to an island, and she went to sleep. And before she went to sleep, she gave her husband her ring, her fiancé, and he took it to watch it while she was sleeping. And when he saw that she was about to get up, he put it near her. Now, they got up, they went to the boat, and they realized that she doesn't have the ring. And this is where we're holding in the story. So they started to go, and the husband tried looking for the ring. The boy and the girl also decided that she's going to look for him. And of course, they both got lost. The king's son walked further until he came upon a path, and it led him to an inhabited area. He didn't have any occupation, even though he was the son of a king. He decided to become a servant. When we lose our faith in ourselves, when we realize that we don't think of ourselves, that we are princes, we are the children of Hashem, we fall to become slaves. And that's what happened. The emperor's daughter also continued walking, but she realized that she was getting lost. So she said, I'm not going to go further in. The boy, he went further into the forest. But the girl, she said, I'm going to stay near the shore, because if somebody comes, I want them to rescue me. During the day, she ate from the fruit to survive. And at night, she would climb into a tree and go to sleep, so she will be saved from wild animals. Meanwhile, there was an extraordinary great merchant who had business dealings all over the world. And he was very old. We know about somebody else that's called old, and that is the evil inclination. He's an old and wise man, an old businessman. But he had a child. He had one son. One day his son said to him, "You are very old, and I'm still young. No one pays attention to me. Your people that you do business with, they don't really know me. They know that you're my father, but they don't really care about they don't think I have anything to do with the business world. Give me a boat, give me merchandise. Let me go and use your connections. So when you pass on, I'll be able to make a living and to continue your legacy, father." So the father said, "Good idea." And the son really was doing the right thing. He wanted to do the right thing. His father gave him a ship with merchandise, and he went from land to land. He sold his merchandise and bought other goods. He was very successful in his dealings. While at sea, he saw trees. These are the trees where the emperor's daughter was staying. He and his men assumed that this was an area they wanted to go and sell their goods. They started to look closer and get closer, and they saw that it's just nothing more than trees. So they decided to leave. Meanwhile, the young merchant was looking into the sea, and he saw, in the reflection of the sea, he saw a tree where it looked like a human was laying in the tree. He said, "Wait a minute. These trees are getting reflected onto the water from the island that we're about to reach." They started to look closer, and it really looked like there was a person. And his sailors also told him. So they decided to send a man in a small boat to investigate. Meanwhile, they looked into the sea, where the reflection was to see where they're going to go, right? When the scout got there, he saw a person sitting in the tree and reported back to them. The merchant's son went to investigate for himself, and he saw the emperor's daughter sitting there. He told her to come down, honey. She replied that she would not go into his ship unless he promises not to touch her, till they returned to his home, and he would marry her according to the law. She realized that this boy, wanted her, but she said, "You must promise not to touch me." Why? Because she wanted to get married with a stable conscious decision, not based on touch and things like that. Because she didn't want to get mixed up. She wanted to marry her real soulmate, who got lost in the forest, who is now currently a slave. And she did not want to lose her goal in life, her direction in life, by getting confused by this merchant's son. So she wanted to keep her intellect intact, and she said, "Please don't touch me. You must promise me." So he promised her. She went with him to the ship, and he realized that she could play musical instruments and speak many languages, and he became very, very happy with the woman that he found. He started to get closer to home, and she told him that it would be proper for him to go home and tell his father, his relatives, and everyone else who knew him to come out and welcome her. He's bringing such an important woman. And then I will tell you who I really am, what my real status is. He liked it. She said to him, "Since you're bringing home a wife like me, it would also be proper that you give all the sailors on the ship something to drink. Let's have a l'chaim." He agreed on this also. He had some very excellent wine on ship, and he gave some to the sailors, and they became very drunk. The young merchant went home. He told his father about his bride and about his business dealings. Meanwhile, the sailors became drunk and left the ship. They fell asleep laying on the ground like drunkards. While the merchant's entire family was getting ready to welcome her, the emperor's daughter untied the ship. She opened the sails and sailed away. We're going to see how this wine will come to help her again. But what we have to learn from this, from the girl's point of view, she was trying to get married with her soulmate, and there was kept on things pushing her away and pushing her away. And there's things in our life that we're trying to get to a certain goal, whether we're looking for a soulmate, whether we're trying to get closer with a relationship with Hashem, which is also sort of like a soulmate. We're trying to have a relationship. You want to have a relationship with your wife. You want to have a relationship with your kids, with your surrounding, with spirituality. There's going to be things that get in the way. But those things that get in the way, sometimes you'll see it, sometimes not. But you'll get something out of the struggle that you didn't know that you had. Whether it just be the fact that you turned to Hashem, when you turned to your Creator and said, "Help me," that is enough of a reason for a person to say, "Wow, I went through a struggle and I called out to Hashem." You know that wine in Hebrew is yayin. Yayin is the numerical value of 70. Sometimes a person has to call out to Hashem when they're stuck in a situation. 70 calls, 70 shouts, 70 prayers. And this could be one of the things that she did. She called out to Hashem so much that Hashem saved her from this merchant's son. Not that he was a bad guy. He was a good guy. And hopefully we'll see what happens to him. But it wasn't for her. And yes, sometimes a person has to go on a date with somebody, even if it's not for them. There is some sort of connection that they had to deal with. Whether they got married or not, doesn't have to do. She had to go through this with this guy, with the merchant's son. But she, at the end of the day, her real soulmate was the boy that's lost. And hopefully she'll be able to stand up to the test. And hopefully we will be able to stand up to the tests of life, getting in the way of our decisions, of our goals, and not to get lost. And to be able to stay strong to our goals, and to realize that even if there's a struggle, the fact that I'm able to turn to Hashem and say, help me in my struggle, help me to have clarity. Whatever it is that you're going through, that is enough to be happy that I was able to gain something out of the struggle. But of course, there are perks and there are things that you'll see that you couldn't have got without going through the struggle, without finding something inside of you, who you really are and what you stand for. Hope everyone has a great week. And we'll continue where we left off, where the girl breaks away and runs away from the merchant and his son.